Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of the Estrella Podcast. My name is Danielle Miranda. Before we get started in introducing today's guest, if you would like to learn more about the Estrella platform, please visit estrella.chat, where you'll learn more information on the upcoming launch of this amazing platform. Now, for today's guest, I'm really excited to introduce to you Astrologer Marc Laurenson. Hi, Marc. How are you today?
Hi, Danielle. I'm really well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited to do this.
I'm so excited that we're finally able to coordinate this interview because I know it's been over a month. Between our schedules, it was hard for us to get this
It
going.
was,
So we're
wasn't
so
it?
grateful.
Yeah, we're together now, and that's the main thing. So,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. And if I may ask, because I believe that you are on the opposite side of the world from me. So where are you located?
Yeah. I'm in Australia, and I'm in a coastal town called the Gold Coast, which is about, if you're looking at the map of Australia, it's on the east side, and it's about halfway up. So I'm
Oh,
in a state
nice.
called Queensland, but I'm a Sydney guy. I was born and bred in Sydney, a big city, with the Harbour Bridge and the Opera House and all that. That's where I come from, and I spent most of my life in Sydney. But I moved up here about 4 years ago. A little bit more tropical up here, a little bit warmer. If you like the cooler weather and you like a little bit more of the sort of the European atmosphere, you need to go down south, right down south. But up here, it's got a little bit more of the Pacific kind of feeling, and a lot of people come up here to retire, and it's really good for families, and it's a lovely area. It's beautiful. It's right on the coast, so lots of beaches and lots of beautiful stuff around. So
Oh,
that's
wonderful.
where I am. Yeah.
Wonderful. And if I may ask, is where you're currently located a popular place for spirituality?
Yeah, because I'm very, very close to a lot of the smaller towns as well, which are very well known to have a more of an esoteric kind of feel about it. I suppose some of them could be compared to, is it Sedona in Arizona
Oh,
that has
yes.
that kind of feeling about it? There's a handful of the little towns that are very similar to that. So, yeah, they're very, very close to where I am. So, being an astrology teacher, as I am, it's good to have people close. I actually had a workshop at my own house yesterday, and
Oh,
got a
wonderful.
lot of the locals to come to my home, and we did a whole day. So, I'm very close to a lot of those kind of people for sure, which is great, which is really lovely.
That is wonderful. So I like that you have that personable and intimate relationship with your clients. I think that's important to have that aspect in your
Oh,
practice, in your
it
teachings.
is, and that's the way I started teaching. I started teaching my school, Sydney Astrology School is my school. It's an
Mm.
international school now. I teach people from all
Oh,
over the world. I teach a lot of Americans, and it's all via Zoom, of course. But I started teaching when I first started in my lounge room. I had a whole group of people come to my home and sit on my lounge, and we would we would start we would do classes that way. And slowly but surely, of course, everything gets bigger and grows more, and people were going, I want to do your course, but I live so many miles away or something. And so, of course, everything had to go on Zoom. And then before I knew it, my God, everything exploded. I was getting people from America, England, Europe, Asia.
now,
Fantastic.
Marc, that is wonderful. What made you decide to start an astrology school that is now known worldwide?
Well, I've always known that this is what I was supposed to do. Um, when I was a kid, when I was tiny, and people would say to you, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I would always say a teacher. I would say a teacher, but you grow up, you become a teenager, and you get in your 20s, and you get waylaid with other things, and other things take your attention. But I got my first astrology book when I was 10 years old,
Mhm.
and a lot of people know, who followed my story know that at 10 years old, when I picked up my first astrology book, I went, I know this. This is stuff that I already know. It wasn't like, oh, this is interesting, I need to learn about it. It was stuff that I was so familiar with. And the
Yes.
shop had all the zodiac signs on the walls. They had, the bull and the crab and the scorpion, and I knew them. I knew them as friends. They were like, oh wow, So astrology has been in my life since then, and
Wow.
I always knew it had to be a big, big part of what I had to do in life. But of course, in your teens and 20s, you get waylaid with other stuff. And it wasn't until my Saturn return, which is at 2930, you get your Saturn, what's called a Saturn return, when Saturn comes back to itself. A lot of people make big decisions around that time in life, that I actually buckled down and thought, no, this is what I have to do. And so I started doing readings, and I started having a little business that way. And then it wasn't into my late 30s because people started going, I want to learn about it. I want to learn about it. Teach me, teach me. So I started taking people one at a time, and taking them through stuff. And I thought, I've got to turn this into something. I can't just take people one at a time all my life. And then slowly but surely, it it grew into 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, and then before I knew it, I had a school on my hands. Basically, that's how it started. So, yeah.
That is incredible. Is your, excuse me, is your astrology school like your typical online schools? Do you have coursework? Is there course books that you want people to have for the courses? You have quizzes, exams. What is the details of your astrology school look like?
Well, the school itself, it's set in 4 10-week terms to start off with. Okay, so you got the level 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so we start from the very beginning. Of course, we start with the nuts and bolts of astrology, and then level 2, we start to put it all together with aspects, bringing the chart together. So by the end of level 2, you can kind of understand a chart. You can get a chart out and understand what the chart's all about. Level 3, we go into all the forecasting side of astrology, what's happening now and into the near future and all that. And level 4, we get into relationship work, we get into the asteroids, we get into location, we get into lots of really groovy stuff in level 4 as well. So it's all done over 10 weeks. So you can do it over a year. And there is homework involved, of course. And I give a lot of course material. There's heaps of course material. So you're getting notes all the time. You're getting your diagrams all the time. You get a weekly webinar with me every week live that they can watch live if they want, or if they can't make it live, they've got it to keep. They've got the replay of it and they've got it to keep. So they have 40 webinars with me at the end of the course, taking them through everything. Once the course is finished and once they pass all their homework and a bit of an exam at the end, they get their certificate from the school. Then they go on to something which is optional after that, which is called masterclass. And many students I've been having for years and years and years are still doing this because they enjoy it so much. They love it so much. And we keep on going. We keep on going. We keep on going, practicing. We bring in more stuff. We bring in things that, things that we haven't talked about so much in the course. We go over and over and over stuff that people want to learn more about. I always say you can check in any time you like, but you can never leave, like Hotel California, So it's a little bit like, it's a course that keeps on giving. So as long as you want to learn about astrology and you want to keep expanding and exploring, we're here for you. So
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Do your students receive a plaque, a certificate, a degree? Like, is there anything?
Well, I'm what's called an AAT here in Australia, which is an accredited astrology teacher by the Federation of Australian Astrologers. So anyone who gets taught by me has an accreditation anyway. So a Sydney Astrology School certificate now becomes quite revered and quite honoured here in Australia, and hopefully overseas as well, because the students have been taught by me as an accredited teacher. But there's another level which I take people through, which I guide people through and tutor people through. And the Federation of Australian Astrologers have their own exam system. And you get a diploma after that. and they
Oh,
have four very, very tough exams, like really tough exams. And my students have gone through them. Many of my students have done really, really well. A lot of them have topped the exams, which I'm really proud of. But you know, you have to really know your stuff to do these exams. And as I said, I take people through them, I tutor them, I make sure that they know what they're doing before they do them, because you can't go on thinking, oh, I'll just do this over the weekend. It's kind of like, no, you won't.
right. There's
Yeah.
no cheat sheet. You got to go through the whole thing.
No. But most of my students, thank goodness, do so well in my course, and I make sure that they're all ready for the exams when they want to do it. And then, of course, you get what's called a practitioner's diploma, which is a big
Wow.
deal. Yeah.
That is a big deal.
Yeah.
That is wonderful that you've built all of this. That's amazing.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's so interesting because when I do readings for people and people are like, oh, I don't know what to do and I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like everybody, and I'm sure you've done this too, Danielle, everybody needs to just take their life into their own hands and realize it's my life and I can't wait around. I can't wait by the phone, or I can't wait for somebody else to do it for me. If I want my life to work, then I've got to do it. I've got to, you know, start the car, you know, I've got to get off the couch. And so, you know, a lot of people go, oh, you know, this is amazing. This has happened to you. And it's kind of like, well, you know, it's kind of like, well, I kind of had to create it because I couldn't keep on working in a shoe shop or, you know, or cleaning tables. You know, that wasn't what I was put on the planet to do.
Right.
You know, and the people who are put on the planet to work in shoe shops and clean tables, God bless them, because that's what, you know, they're getting something out of that that's very sacred.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't me.
Mark, that's so perfectly said, because hearing what you just spoke of reminds me of me. I knew back in 2012, I knew that I was not meant to work a 9 to 5. I've never been wired to sit still, work a 9 to 5. I love helping people. I love being proactive. And since 2012, I worked for myself. So I get it. It is about being proactive. It is about saying, like, do you want more for yourself? And at the end of the day, no one's going to be able to do that for you but yourself. Exactly. And so we have to, like you said, like, take charge of our lives and make these decisions if we want to see things come to fruition properly.
Totally.
Yes, I think it's wonderful.
And life's very short, you know, it's a short, and I often say that to people who are quite young, because they're all kind of like, oh, you know, I'll put that on the back burner. It's kind of like, it goes really quickly. Yes, and you only get it once this time around. You know what I mean? I believe you get it more than once, really, but this time around you only get this one once.
Right.
And it's, you know, you've heard it's not a dress rehearsal. You've heard that one before. You got to make sure everything is ticked off the list before you leave this mortal coil, you know.
So well said. It's such a great reminder too. I needed to hear that. If I may ask, Mark, are you the only school in Australia, astrology school?
No, there are quite a few astrology schools, but astrology, there's lots of different strands of astrology. You know, there's lots of different styles of astrology. I'm the only astrology school that specializes in what I would call evolutionary astrology, which is more the spiritual side of astrology. Yeah. I don't know. Do you know Stephen? Have you heard of Stephen Forrest?
I have not heard of Stephen Forrest.
Very well-known astrologer, American astrologer, very revered. He's an evolutionary astrologer, and evolutionary astrology it's a modern version of astrology that understands the chart as a map of the soul. You know, it's a soul's map, and it's come onto the planet to achieve its mission. You know, whatever its mission is, it has a map called, and we understand the soul coming in and seeking its purpose here on the earth plane, and being able to do things on the earth plane that bring us satisfaction and joy and love and fun and sharing. And everything in astrology is trying to gear you down that road. Okay. So that's an evolutionary understanding of astrology. There's other factions of astrology that are more traditional. They have a
Mhm.
more traditional understanding of astrology. They have different rules, and they're a little bit more black and white.
Yes.
They're a little bit more this works, this doesn't, that kind of stuff. Good thing, not so good thing, all that kind of thing, which I don't really like very much.
Right.
The way I understand the world and my life and astrology is very much about choice,
Mm.
about we get a map, but still we can make choices within that map with how we're going to play it. So
Yes.
there's other strands of astrology that go down the roads of things being a little tiny bit um, more technical, or a little bit more. It's like an older version, as I said. So um, there are other schools, and other schools kind of teach different areas of astrology, different ways of looking at astrology. But as far as I know, I'm the only school that does evolutionary astrology. Yeah.
Now, if I may ask, when you're looking at the chart, when you're doing your readings, is the chart the standard chart across the board for all uh, divinations of astrology, or all forms of astrology, or is your evolution chart different than the other forms of astrology?
All charts are pretty much the same. We all deal with the same planets, the same 10 planets in the solar system. All the charts have 12 houses. So they're all pretty much the same. The Vedic system, which is an Indian system, they have a slightly different look. When you pull up a Vedic chart, it looks very, very different. But all the Western astrology, the Western style of astrology, is all very much the same. There's a slight difference in what we call house systems. And the houses are, what divides the 12 houses in the chart. You'll often see, looks like pizza's a pizza, it looks like a pizza cut into 12 slices.
Mhm.
There's slight variations in how you do that, the mathematics around that. Some house systems, you'll have a slightly different amount of degrees in the first house, and the second and the third than others.
Yes.
So, but it's only a slight difference, really. Yeah.
Okay. May I ask, how in depth are you able to truly go with a client when reading their astrology chart,
Very much right down there.
including past lives or
Oh
just in
yeah.
the current lifetime?
Oh yeah. It's
Wow.
all in there. Everything's in there, Danielle. And there's a point that comes into our charts called the south node of the moon. Now
Mhm.
it's not a physical body. You can't say, go, oh, there it is up in the sky. You can't actually see it. It's an intersecting point between the orbit of us going around the sun, which is called the ecliptic, and the moon's orbit, and they intersect. Those two orbits intersect, and the intersecting point of the moon going under the ecliptic is what's called the south node of the moon, and that
Mm.
gathers all the information from before. What's before? I talk about it as a past life. This is information that you've lived before, somehow. You'll notice it coming through the family too, which is a past life in a way as well. Many
Mm.
times when I'm talking about it, they'll go, oh, this is my mother's story or my grandfather's story you're telling me. So, it's kind of like a relay baton, kind of that gets passed down through the generations, and you've got it now. It's up to you to do something about it. So
Yes.
whether it's a past life or whether it's a generational thing, it doesn't really matter, because it's something that has happened from before. You bring it into this lifetime now, and it's time to do something about it. It's
Mm.
time to fix it up or heal it or iron it out in some kind of way, because it often comes into this lifetime as a continuum to be, yeah, to be purified or to be made good. Yeah. So the past life thing comes into it in a big, big way. Everything in the chart has something really important to say. And the planets that are way out in the solar system, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, the big ones way out there, they're really big, big transformative change
Mm.
agents in our lives. And so you spend a lot of time talking about them when they're making strong, what we call aspects to other planets in your chart, because you would have chosen a particular lifetime where you'd have to go through some kind of deep, purging with a particular energy or particular issue, breaking free from something, releasing something, pulling something, not attaching to something. And so you can go as deep as you want to go. Most clients who come to see me want to go there, They don't want to just play up here, They want to get,
They don't want to just surface level. They want to go in depth.
They want to go right down there. They want to go down to the nitty gritty. So I love that, because that's where I go too.
Yes.
And having a reading is empowering. It's really, really empowering, because I've actually had people say I got more out of that one reading with you as I have for years and years of therapy,
Wow.
It answers, because astrology answers all your questions, everything you want to know about yourself. Why am I like this? Why do I have this fear? What's this issue about?
In a sense, it is a form of therapy.
Totally. People say to me when I tell them I'm an astrologer, they think, I'm a fortune teller. It's kind of like, no. No, it's got nothing to do with that. I'm a counselor. I'm basically a counselor. And I've got these tools, I've got these symbols that help me out. They're telling me, they're my little, they're like my little helpers telling me exactly what's going on. And I've just become the spokesperson for them, basically. Yeah.
Now, I have a question, Mark, and I'm going to kind of paint a scenario here. Are you able, if you're with a client and you're doing an astrology reading on them, are you able to tell them, for example, okay, since we have choices, right? We have a choice in how we move and what we can do with our lives. If you do this, then this will be your outcome. Or if you do this, then this will be your outcome. Are you able to give people those type of answers when you're doing their reading?
Well, kind of. You have to be very careful as an astrologer with telling people what to do.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I never ever say, oh, you've got to do this. This is what you've got to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's you're heading into tricky territory there, because
Yes.
you still want to leave the freedom of choice open to the person. So what you tend to do, well, what I tend to do is I tend to open the information up for them. There it is. That's the information on the table, and you yourself can see what's going to work and what's not without me actually saying it. I've laid it all on the table for you. This is what the planets are saying. And now it's up to you to make the choices that are going to either work for you or not. And if you make the choices that are not going to work for you, that's fine. That's fine. The planets and me and the chart, nobody's going to judge you. But now, too much now. You know what I mean? You've made a choice that has gone down the wrong road, and you can change it. You can do something about it. You can actually go, okay, that's a choice I shouldn't have made, because it's going to take me down the same storyline. It's going to rehash old stuff that I've been through before. So I've got to turn it around. I've got to make choices that are different. And sometimes making choices that are different, it's a big deal in people's lives, because we get so caught up in being us and our lives and our habits and our behavior and our thought patterns, changing all those kind of things and turning ourselves around, to have a better life can be a big deal for people. So it's not, for a lot of people, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a little bit of time. But slowly but surely, you'll start to think, oh, I kind of like my life now. I kind of like what I'm doing. I kind of like the person I am. I kind of like the friends I'm attracting. And you go, okay, you're on the right track now. You're on the right track.
Very interesting. Mark, if I may ask, with evolution astrology, do you need more in-depth information from your client in order to do a reading, or just a date of birth? What information do you need from a client in order to complete a chart?
All I need is your birth date, the time of your birth, as close as you can get as possible, and of course the place you were born, the city you were born in. a lot of people go, oh, I don't know the time I'm born. And, that can be that can be difficult because you're not going to know what houses the planets fall in, because the time of birth will put your sun in the 12th house or the ninth house. Or so hospitals do keep records. A lot of countries have it on your birth certificate. I don't know if they do in the US. I know they do it in Europe.
Mhm.
They don't do it in Australia, which is a shame. But hospitals keep records. You can ring up the hospital in Australia anyway. You can ring up the hospital and they'll tell you the time you were born. Or you can keep your fingers crossed and hope that mum remembers what time you popped out. But sometimes there's other ways of being able to do it. If you've got a short window, like mum said, it was kind of like, early evening, about 7 or 8 at night, that kind of thing. Then you can do something called what's called rectification,
Mhm.
which is a mathematical kind of working out of the time, based on events that have already happened to you. So
Mm.
you give an astrologer about 6 or 7 major events in your life, starting school, getting married, having a baby, having a divorce, father dying. And the astrologer can kind of tweak the chart into where planets might have been in those times.
Mhm.
And it can actually get a little bit closer to a time that it could have been, you know.
Yes.
Again, we can't be 100% accurate, but at least it might make a little bit more sense. If you know the person really well, like really, really well, like I could actually sit with them and go, you've got a Virgo rising, and you've got the sun in this house, when you
Yes.
know them really well. Yeah, like my husband's mum, she doesn't know it. She doesn't know her birth time at all. And I said, I know it. I know what time you're born because I know it so well. And I
Yeah.
just I just made the chart up for the time I believe she's born, because that's her. That's who she
Yes.
is. And I
Yes.
told her, and she said, "Oh, well, I don't know." I said, "Well, I know. This is you. This is you." So, if you're lucky enough to know somebody really well, you could pretty much do it that way too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Mark, are you the only one that is doing all the coursework at your astrology school, or do you have other assistants and teachers that are also teaching the classes?
I have a wonderful assistant called Ingrid who assists me in the classes. Um, but I'm the principal tutor. I'm the teacher of every single class. You're not going to get another teacher apart from me. But Ingrid, gorgeous Ingrid, with me. She's there. She's my 2IC. Everyone loves her, and she helps me. She does the back end of everything too. She prepares the school. She does all the technical side of the school. She does all the advertising for the school. I couldn't really do my school without her.
Oh,
She's an angel, and yeah. So she's there. She's there. She's the big part of the course. And as I said, she doesn't actually teach, but she helps me in the webinars. I'll always throw it over to her, and I'll say, Ingrid, have I forgotten anything? Do you want to fill in some stuff that you understand, you know about this? And she'll come in with something, and I'll go, oh, of course. Why didn't I talk about that? So she's fantastic. She's really, really good. But I've done mini courses with people. I've done mini courses with I don't know if you know Frank Clifford, a wonderful English astrologer, runs the London School of Astrology. I've done a mini courses with Kira Sutherland. She's a health astrologer. She works with the health side of astrology.
oh wow.
Lots of different astrologers I brought in to do little short courses for the school. So that's the way.
That's
That's the
wonderful.
arrangement.
If I may ask, Mark, what would you say has shaped you into the astrologer you are today? What were some key tools or books or practices that you were able to really apply to help get you to this moment right now with
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
confidence you have as an astrologer?
Well, When I was a kid and I got my first astrology book, and all the way through my teens, a lot of the astrology I was reading was still fascinating and still exciting, but it was very kind of descriptive. It's very like, Scorpio does this, and Aries does this, and all that kind of stuff. It's still very descriptive. And I was starting to, in the late 70s into the early 80s, when I was very young, I started to become very attracted to spirituality. Uh, there was a wonderful manual called The Course in Miracles. I'm not sure if you know
Oh,
about The Course in
yes.
Miracles. That
Yes.
had just come out not long before, and I soaked myself into that. I was loving that. Louise Hay was coming out,
Love
Wayne
Louise Day.
Dyer,
Mhm.
all these wonderful, wonderful spiritual teachers were all coming out, and I just couldn't get enough of all that. And I was trying to, how does spirituality and how does astrology kind of come together? Because that's what I really, really wanted. And I wasn't finding the astrology I wanted to find at that stage. And Stephen Forrest, wonderful Stephen Forrest, who is a big evolutionary astrologer in the US, he started writing books that kind of joined them both together. And I went, oh, hallelujah, I found it, so it was my love of the spirit and the soul's reason for being here, and an understanding of our essential selves and our plan, outside of spirituality, that got me into the kind of astrology that I wanted to do. Because, as I said, if I was an astrologer that just wanted to, predict, what's going to go on for you just for the sake of it, it's kind of like, that's really dry. It's really
Right.
dry. It has no juice to it. I wouldn't really be interested in it. But the fact that I've understood astrology from the reason that you've chosen to be here, and the reason that you have your chart, and everything is kind of, you've designed this amazing guide for this lifetime to become the best version of yourself. It's like, that's the astrology I want. That's the one that excites me, and that's the one that people love too, because people, that's what people are after.
Mhm.
Everyone's questioning themselves, and everyone's questioning why they're here, and that's why astrology is just so beautiful, because, as I said, it answers questions. You ask a question, and it'll be in your chart. Your chart will say, well, this is the reason. This is the reason around it. I
Yes.
love it because of that. So
Yes.
that's the main reason that, I kind of interwove both of them together. Yeah.
Yes. Mark, besides having courses and classes at your home, do you go to other countries and teach?
Yes, I do. I do. I've gone to America. I've been over there. I did a conference in Denver,
Oh,
just
how
outside of Denver
nice.
in Colorado. Yeah, there's another one coming up pretty soon. They do one in Washington State. They do one in
Mhm.
Seattle. There's one in Chicago coming up. So, I don't know about if I'm going to be invited or not, but hopefully, because I've done
Oh,
things
that's
there before.
wonderful.
I do a lot in London, in England, because Frank Clifford, who runs the London School of Astrology, he gets me over there quite a lot to teach for his students, which is great. I did a wonderful conference in Lake Como last year at the north of Italy, just on the Swiss border, where we had this beautiful conference with quite a few other wonderful astrologers, and we in this beautiful location. So we had this great time there. I'm doing Bali at the end of the year,
Oh,
um, with just me and a couple of others. We're doing a group in Bali. So I love the fact, because I love traveling. I'm a big, big traveler. I mean, in my chart, you can see you can see how much I love to travel. So if I can travel and do astrology at the same time, I'm in heaven.
the best of both worlds.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Now, Mark, if I may ask, with evolution astrology, are you able to do a chart on the world? not just with a client, but can you do like an overview of current events, world events,
Yeah.
how things are going to pan out? Like we just found out that we entered into the age of Aquarius, which
Yes.
I'm an Aquarius.
Are
and
you?
and
Yeah.
I know that Aquarian energy brings about truth and, having to kind of look at the forefront of things and face
Hmm.
yourself and
Yeah.
decisions. And so I just would like to know, like, does evolution astrology do that as well?
Yes, it does. It does. And people power, because it's the planet Pluto that's moved into Aquarius. And
Mm,
Pluto takes a long time to go through a sign. It's been in Capricorn for 15 years before that, and it's just moved into Aquarius. So Aquarius is about the people. Aquarius is the group mind. It's a very inventive, innovative, freedom oriented, liberation kind of sign. And now that it's moved into Aquarius and will be in Aquarius until 2044,
wow.
it's kind of like the big upheaval or the big change or the big transformation based on people and what the people want. So
Right.
you can see there's a rumbling in the air already with people on the streets with placards and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's so interesting. But yeah, you can do the world stuff. You can look at the planets changing sign and house and all, and well, not necessarily house, but changing sign, and what they're doing with each other in the sky. That will give you an inkling of the flavor of what's going on out there in the world. But every country has their own chart. You pull up a chart
Mm,
of the country's national day. Like America's chart is the 4th of July, 1776.
hmm.
And it's pulled up for about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I think, 5:10 or something like that. I must have been a signing or something around about that time. And you can put a whole lot of planets against the America's chart to see what America's going to go through.
Oh, wow.
So it can become that specific. So it's a different area of astrology. It's called mundane astrology, not mundane as in boring, mundane as in world. It's what mundo astrology,
Mhm.
world astrology. And people specialize in it. There's some really great mundane astrologers, people who just look at the world and what's happening in the world and the politics and how countries are relating to each other and the money side of things and all that kind of stuff. It's a specified area. I don't deal with it all that much because it's a little bit like a gynecologist doesn't deal with an ear, nose, and throat kind of patient. But at the same time, I could do it. I could do it. Like if somebody showed me a chart, I'd know what it was. But I love really good ones. Really good astrologers that are really good at it. I love listening to what they have to say, and I love the understanding of the world going through everything. Because the world has its own understanding of it's a collective understanding.
Mhm.
And so it's very different to your personal chart because, of course, your personal chart, it's up to you to do something
Yes.
about it. But when you're looking at the world chart, you kind of got to hope, because the world is like pulling everybody, everyone's getting pulled. And there's going to be factions. There's going to be people who are going to be on the streets protesting. And then there's going to be other people who are holding on to what they know and wanting to dictate or whatever. So, you know, you've seen it all through life. You've seen it all
Yeah.
through history. It's so interesting to watch, though, because it's so interesting to watch the correlation of planets
Hmm.
doing exactly what's going on and
Yes.
how we're all dealing with it.
And
As a
and what a perspective as an astrologer, because, for those out there who don't understand astrology, when a world event or something in their country happens, they don't have that deeper understanding. But for someone like yourself who understands what's going on a planetary level, you can say, that happened because of this.
exactly,
So that is amazing that you can get that perspective.
exactly. I'm seeing it already. I'm looking at things on the news and I'm going, oh, that's because that's there and that's there and that's there. Most astrologers are kind of in tune with what's going on in the world at the moment. We're heading into big times, 2025, 26, big years of extreme change. And the sky is saying that, everything in astrology is saying that. And you can see it in the world. You can see it
Yes.
in the world with the amount of people who are running countries at the moment, and how far can that be taken?
Yes.
How far can we push that before the rest of us go enough's enough? So
Yes. I'm starting to see that too with people as well. Um, a lot of people are starting to kind of go within and look at themselves and their lives and, their relationships with friends, family, marriages, things like that. And I'm
yeah,
seeing, I was telling one of my friends, uh, that we're going to probably see with people that we're not going to expect separation, whether it be divorce, people not being friends anymore,
yeah,
people changing careers. I think there's going to be a lot of that this year. I'm already starting to see signs of that in people that I
yeah,
know.
yeah. Exactly. It's going to be one of those. It's going to be this year and next year. 26 is next year is going to be a big year as well. So you'll notice a lot of very radical shifts in
Mhm.
people's lives. Really, people turning things around, people doing things that they wouldn't normally do,
Mhm.
people making decisions and choices that they are making from basically, I can't keep going on like this anymore, those kind of choices.
Mm.
It's going to
Yes.
be it's going to be a really interesting time. The the best thing to do, and that's why astrology becomes so wonderful and so beautiful, is that every planet is trying to teach us something very, very positive around what we're going through.
Mhm.
So if we are going through big changes and shifts and having to make big decisions, the planets are always saying you're making these changes and these big decisions for your higher self's good in the end.
Mhm.
You're not changing just to make your life more complicated. You're
Yes.
not being challenged just to make it, just to for the world to come in and go, oh, you have to deal with that. It's like, no, you're going through it. You're going through this because you and your soul is wanting to evolve to the next version of yourself that is so much closer to the essential you. And that's why you have to make the big changes in your life so you can actually head in that direction.
Mhm.
So it's so good to know. So good to know.
Yes, it is. Mark, as we're nearing the end of this episode, this has been such enlightening information for me, and I'm sure for the viewers and the listeners out here watching this episode. For those who are interested in learning more about your school and may want to become a
Yeah.
student
Hmm.
or want to get a reading with you, do you have any websites, social media platforms, any
I
information that
do.
you'd like to give?
I do. My school is Sydney, that's SYDNEY, sydneyastrologyschool.com. Sydney Astrology School, all one word.com. That's my school. So just go onto the website and all the information is there and you can join from there. I have a new level 1 starting in July. So it's not too far off for people who want to do that. If you want to book a reading with me, it's a bit difficult at the moment because I am booked up for this year now. So you'd be booking in for next year. But just email me at Marc, M-A-R-C, at Marc Laurenson, MarcLaurenson, marklaurenson.com, marc@marklaurenson.com. I might be able to squeeze a few people in somewhere along the line this year. But yeah, so that's for readings. I have a YouTube channel, so you can click on my YouTube channel from my website. My website has a YouTube click. I have a Facebook page and an Instagram page for the school as well. So they've got the clicks on the website. So when you go to the website, you'll see the Facebook click, the Instagram click, and the YouTube click. So it's all there. So lots of juicy stuff and great information. Love to get some students from the US. I find the US students are fantastic. They're so good. They're so keen. They're such keen beans, you know.
Well, that's wonderful. Absolutely. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate you being a guest today, Marc. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for listening and watching another episode of the Estrella Podcast. If you would like more information on the Estrella platform, please visit estrella.chat. Thank you so much, Marc, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Danielle. It's been great.
Bye.